we need to talk about your foot because you've done something silly, haven't you?
Yeah, I've broken my foot, John.
But how did you break your foot?
Oh, you know what? Actually, it's the most boringest unrock and roll story ever. I was walking up some steps at Trowbridge Town Hall, and I literally slipped on one, and that was it, broken. And I was like, oh, that's all it took.
This is Sheer Isolation. It's presented by Kieran Moore in Trowbridge and John Ponting in Cricklade. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is Sheer Isolation. I am John in Cricklade, and Kieran has just sent me a message, but he is also there in Trowbridge.
Good afternoon, John.
Bing.
Or as they say in Polish, dzień dobry.
I'm not going to repeat that back to you because I will get it very wrong.
I shouldn't worry about getting it wrong.
I'll say Prynhawn da. There you go, have a bit of Welsh.
Oh, there you go, a little bit of Welsh. Nice.
I hear you're Polish and I raise you some Welsh. So, purpose of this show is to promote and highlight the music and art scene across the west of England. And we do that by playing a couple of tracks and chatting to a guest. And we've got another fascinating guest to talk to this week. From an industry, really, we haven't covered in all the time we've been doing this. And that's the back of house guitar tech type person. We're joined by Lee Laverack, who you've known for a while, Kieran.
Well, yeah, so he is a classic example of people that you see once in a blue moon that works in the industry. And obviously he tours and I work and occasionally our paths cross. And Lee was the guitar tech for Trail of Dead when they performed for Sheer Music at the Comedia in Bath about 2 years ago or 3 years ago, when it was the anniversary of their second or their first proper full album, Madonna. And I booked the show because I loved the album, I loved the band. And so he came as part of the package and it was all lovely. And I've been following him on Instagram since. And he builds guitars, he fixes stuff. As we have established at length, you rarely do one thing in this industry. You often wear multiple hats and do multiple jobs. And he personified that quite well, I think.
So we'll be chatting to him in about 5 minutes' time. Kieran, have you had any exciting gigs happen to yourself over the last weekend or the last week?
The weekend
apart from you breaking your foot.
I broke my foot. That was on the Friday night after film. Saturday we had another film because I was with the NHS in the morning. I wasn't able to do the film, so I had to hand it over to somebody else to run in my absence. But despite having a cast on or this plastic pot on for 3 or 4 hours, I went straight back to work and I ran a rock show. So you can't keep a good man down.
Okay, let's play ourselves a tune just to get ourselves up and running then. And this guy was on the show 3 or 4 weeks ago, Professor Elemental, talking about pretty much everything, what he's done, what he's going to do, all that stuff. We didn't play one of his tracks at the time, we had other things to do. So
I'm picking Professor Elemental, and he's a long-standing contributor and producer, Tom Caruana, and this is a rare occasion where they're both listed as the musicians. So it's Professor Elemental and Tom Caruana with a track called "I Love Libraries," featuring Ella Jean.
Ah, look, Jeffrey, we're in the library. Everything you ever needed is in the library. Truly the most beautiful places on God's sweet earth. I love libraries, everyone's ever so clever and kindly. Buried in books is where you'll find me. Outside it's rainy, inside shiny. A book makes a powerful person mighty. Don't fold back spines asking nicely. And no, it's not pricey, everything's free, whether dusty, shiny, a weighty tome that's studied dryly, a little kid's book that's ever so tiny, a comic book where it's all a bit fighty, or a dark horror where it's all a bit slimy, or a sci-fi where they try to outpsych me, so much insight, nice and tidy. Now there's less, all under threat, shiesty, countries lost, 800 libraries, all from austerity, how unsightly, crikey. This warning's timely, if there's an army, please assign me, fight for your library, the passion inside me.
Change the world. It's all about space and time for me. When I need to get in my zone, I know where to go to get some peace.
If your imagination's basic, what you'll find here will replace it. This is where you can recreate it. A place to ponder, somewhere for patience, for internet, for information, community, Communication, your enemies don't want you to take in something so great, truly amazing. Self-improvement, inspiration. Writers claim they inspired great things. Caitlin Moran to Neil Gaiman. The crucible of great creations, a crucial place for instigation or instant, simple inspiration. To be inside is to feel elation. No sunshine, you'll find me book bathing. If they get taken and not replaced, well, nothing ever takes their place. And when it feels like your world might cave in, here's a place you can feel safe in. Libraries are great. They can shape a nation. Libraries are amazing.
I know I'll change the world. It's all about space and time for me. When I need to get in my zone, I know where to go to get some peace. The libraries, 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 libraries,
And that's an absolutely brand new track from Professor. It was only released back in January this year. It's off his new album.
Yeah, so that is Professor Elemental. Is it the 20? It's the 20-something, didn't he's playing at Trowbridge?
23rd or 4th, 24th, 26th? I don't know, John. I should know.
This is the man whose job it is to know the gigs in Trowbridge. You're actually paid.
It's the 23rd. It's actually 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks' time, 23rd of April.
So listen to our back catalogue online. You can go back a couple of weeks and just find our interview there with Professor Elemental. You've got some stuff behind you, Kieran. What are you picking for product placement this week?
Do you know, John, I promised you, I said, like, I've been waiting for things to be delivered. I am now sitting on a stack of new records. It's been a wonderful time. This is the latest album from Kevin Devine. I absolutely love Kevin. He's absolutely fantastic. But I bought his album. And if anybody doesn't know Kevin, he's kind of like an American version of Frank Turner. But it's a lovely purple vinyl. Don't think I've got a purple coloured vinyl, so that's quite nice. Also, John, it was album release week of Wet Leg, which means this album, by the time this gets aired, is almost certainly going to be number one, which means I'll have bought 2 albums by number one artists this year, meaning without even realising it, I'm on trend. But I've got the CD. Now, I know what you're thinking. Kieran, why haven't you bought vinyl? Vinyl's really popular. I predict, I'm almost certain in this fact, that they will sell more vinyl than they do CDs, which means the CD now is a rarer collector's item, John. So I'm thinking with my brain there, I'll be on eBay in a couple of years' time, thousands of pounds.
Let's talk about our guest, Lee from Laverack Guitars, who is, he does live sound tech on stages. He builds and repairs guitars. And I think the more fascinating thing for me is that he gets to travel all over the world, seeing the sights of Earth, and then going off and getting paid to do a gig in the evening.
That it's just something else, isn't it? It really is a different lifestyle. We said it before, but like music it's a life. It's a way of life. When you live like that, when you work like that, it's not just a 9 to 5. You can't just go home at the end of the night and stop thinking about it. It's a way in which you choose to live your life. It takes over, especially some of those days where you're working 24 hours a day, be it driving, loading in, watching a show, loading out. You'll spend 8 hours asleep and the rest of the time you'll be working. So they are more than just a job. It is always more than just a job.
At the beginning of this interview, you both are happily nattering away and you're talking about the band And You Will Know Us by the Trail of Dead. You shortened to Trail of Dead. But for people who aren't familiar with them, can you just give us a little bit of a rundown?
So fronted by a guy called Conrad Keeley. Conrad is half British, half American. And he formed this band, and they were this sort of indie rock and roll band, really noisy, clattering drums, loads of guitars, loads of teenage angst. And they released their debut album, Madonna. And it was just, it changed. I just listened to it. The first time I listened to it, I instantly fell in love, and it instantly became a classic, one of my sort of top 10 albums of all time. And then fast forward to 2019, I think it was 2018. Trailer Dead play for me in Bath, and I get to host a band that I absolutely loved. And I ended up doing lights for the show, and it was one of the best shows I've ever worked on, really. And it was Comedia in Bath. My son worked there at the time. The whole thing was just perfect, and I've got incredibly amazing memories of that album and of that band. So, and Lee was their guitar tech, so hence the connection.
Cool. Okay, and yeah, we kind of pick up the interview talking about that very point. So we'll hand over to Lee now.
If I'm just guitar guy and not TMing or advancing any of that business, I'm usually driving as well, unless it's a bus or whatever. But equipment, hot gear, load it in, rig it up, then sort guitars out that are all, to make them all nice, and they're all generally nice anyway because I take care of them beforehand. Rig it up, sound check, this and that and that, mark things out where they want to be, shift it all to one side, next band comes on, the openers. Then when it comes to the show, pull what I need to do back out into position, line check with the front of house guy, 1 2 1 2 check, all that lot, try and play the best guitar riffs I can and get a few cheers from kids in crowd. Put set lists out, waters, beers, towels, toys, whatever bullshit. Sorry, I'm cursing. Whatever stuff needs to go out there. And then just look after people. It depends band to band. It can be different. Some Trailer Dead is the most busy show.
Okay.
It's the most hectic for me because it's just constant guitar changes, picking things up that have been thrown, kind of thing.
So really,
That's
what
with
you're saying is you're really the sixth member of the band.
It's not the first time I've been called that by the band, basically, and by like audience members. It's like you're just in the band. The most recent bass player who's playing at the minute, he's like, dude, you're more in the band than I am. It's like, and I play the damn instrument. But that's the party, right? That's the group. Yeah. Although I'm not the performer on stage at that time, but you need to be involved to be part of the whole organism that travels, and everyone needs to be in sync.
So for the average person who's at the gig and just stood in the crowd waiting for the band to come on, obviously we see you run on and you're setting up the mics, you're doing your 1 2, and then during the gig we see the shadow of yourself running back and forth.
Sometimes you'll see the shadow. Yeah, sometimes I might as well be just singing. Depends what stage you've got. Sometimes it's that close. I'm just next to, I'm leaning on amp, and it's like, but I try and be off stage as much as possible.
Yeah.
With many artists, but it's space dependent, and it depends on the band. Now with Trail, I need to be there all the damn time. Do you know what I mean? Depending how they work the set. If they work the setup where there's tunes that are like, oh, this is more tech friendly for me, so I can sit back on these few tunes because there's nothing to go do. That's rare though, but I'm always on and off for sure. It's not just like swapping guitars for tunes. It's like, a mic stand might follow where somebody's throwing a beer on stage or a cup, or there's some shit, set lists decide to get screwed up and slide out of the end of the stage. And it's just sorting bits like that. Young lad needs a new beer. He's finished his beer, and it's like, I better crack him another one then. I might crack myself one at the same time sometimes as well. Well, I might.
And then you've got the end of the gig as well, and all of the breaking down. So you typically don't
Break
go to
it down
bed very early.
No, well then I've got after the van doors are closed, and then then it's like, let's see where the next evening is where the evening is going to take us from here. But I usually just try and get it packed down as quick. The quicker I get it done, the quicker I can relax. Do you know what I mean? And then you've got the kids in the audience. I say kids. You've got the crowd in the audience and stuff, and they do want to shout for things. They want memorabilia and things like that. Sticks, certainly
Set list, please.
And do try and accommodate as much as possible with that. Absolutely. There's occasional times where I'm just not feeling it, and it's like, oh, come on, man, I need to get this done quick, and I ain't really got time. Or if there's a club night on afterwards, the next bunch of DJs are coming in, and it's like, you guys are done now. This is our venue now. Get the hell out. And it's like, you've got to just make it work and get off as quick as possible so that the evening can run.
At what point, or how did you get into teching, as being a guitar tech for bands, a backline tech, but also at what stage in a band's career do you join them? Because presumably, Trade of the Dead would have at some point not had a guitar tech. At which point do they get techs in? How does that develop? How does that relationship develop?
I mean, those guys have obviously been going since, let's say first album, sort of 94, 95. And then I think they broke probably like 98 were when they got sort of mainstream and stuff. So they will have had people before. And I got past this show on by a guy. He was their guy when they'd come over to the UK and Europe for, God knows, years and years. And then I just got passed along one day. It would just come from an email or a text message. Sometimes I'll know the person that's texts, or sometimes it should be a randomer, but that, your name and your details have been passed about the industry. It could be anywhere from the beginning of a band's career, or like these guys are just like, they've been going 30 years or whatever, or it could be anywhere. It's whoever's, because people such as myself, it's a transient business. I know techs and front of house engineers that just no longer do it anymore. They've come and done a couple of years and then they're off, painting and decorating or doing something else. But I'm like, this is my shop behind me, and for now, I ain't doing no else. You know what I mean? I've got this going off.
So what are the shows are you doing?
My very first foray, or whatever you want to say, into this field is the Pigeon Detectives Leeds indie stalwarts. Which is what I'm trying to sort out now. We've got a show this weekend. Some things aren't getting met by the venue, so now I've got to liaise. So I started out with those guys, as in, Christ, I didn't even know. I played in bands myself. I know I'd done this for about 5 or 6 years. Maybe for 6 years previous to that, doing repairs and guitar setups and building stuff for people. So that's how I got into it. I've been in a band myself, recording with studio engineers who own this place that I'm in. You might be able to hear some drums now. The engineer needed somebody in his front of house. This band are now getting to where they need somebody to come and help on stage. We're friends, we work together, we've recorded together. You know what you're doing, do you want to come in? Well,
Yeah.
I know guitars. And then it entered into the world of working the stage, which then it was very much a little bit of trial by fire in a way. I knew what I was doing equipment wise, but when it's a different world, live stuff, because it's not about just the gear, it's about personalities and people's, how they're comfortable they feel on stage with, again, the little sundries, little bits of stuff that you wouldn't think about, such as just refreshments and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It seems very inane, and anybody who's like, I'm not doing that for that guy, they could do it themselves. And it's like, until you're in that environment and in that intensity of whatever's going off in our intense band, little things like that will make a world of difference.
Lee, we haven't really talked about your background yet and your workshop, but I really feel like we need to talk about the other aspects of what you do, which is repairing guitars and also building instruments from scratch as well. That's right, isn't it?
I try not to do that as much these days. But repairing, for sure. I've got heavily into making custom components and stuff like guitar pickups, various bits of shit like this. I'm getting big into that world, really. the desk I'm set up on now is my winding station, and big reels of copper wire and machines and magnets, and I really like that side of it. It's very low overheads, enjoyable to do. Repairing, there's my bench behind me here, and there's various stuff in front, drill presses and all sorts. I don't have a machine shop where I can plane large bits of wood with all extraction and stuff. It's a very small setup. I could have had that by now and stuff, but I was very busy working on the road as well, which were thoroughly enjoyable, of course, because it's the and I've been all over the world. You know what I mean? I had a gig one morning. I woke up, and then it's like, right, if we get in this taxi, we're going to go to the Great Wall of China today for a couple of hours, and then we're going to come back and load in and do a sound check. And it's like, well, 1 minute I'm stood on the Great Wall of China, and then 3 hours later I'm in some club. Do you know what I mean? Setting a gig up, and it's like, that's how far it takes you. So it's like, well, I'm not giving this up just yet.
Yeah, right.
So to go into the realm of full-on high production guitar building with employees and stuff would, that takes up all your dedication and time. But I want to go to the bottom of Mount Fuji. Do you know what I mean? And then in the afternoon, set some guitars up, and then at the evening, drink some sake. So let's do that for a few years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're selling it quite well there to people who might want to get involved.
I mean, obviously, like, things have happened in the last sort of 24 months or whatever, which kind of put people off or whatever, or there hadn't been the facility to do that. Now that's back up and running, as in it's happening. I'm here, stood on the stage. It's like, oh, well, that's not going to happen again, or this might not happen. But then I found myself, like Alexandra Palace for 2 nights, stood on the stage with full gear and stuff, working for like a #1 selling artist. And it's like, oh, this is happening now. But you can't take it for granted. It's like, I'll just go with what's happening now. And you can plan in the future and stuff, but you got to be flexible. I don't know what the whole tirade of that point was. It's like, yeah, you can't count your sort of chickens and stuff like that, but don't be, anybody who's wanting to do it, don't be dissuaded, if that's the right word, to not go in there because, oh, well, this might happen and there might be these troubles. It's like, just, what is it? Failure to prepare is preparing to fail, right? So just crack on like it's all happening anyway. Just act like it is. And if you want to go and try and get over to Tokyo to do a gig at Quattro, keep ploughing at it and find the ways to go do it.
What we normally do is we normally get the guests to pick a song to trail out with. What would you guys pick a song for us?
Now, there's a bunch of lads that did a couple of gigs with Trail, and that's how I met them. They've recorded at the studio, actually, but that got revealed later on. UK lads, and they're called Avalanche Party. The record doesn't know what it's doing. It's all sorts of things, but it's got a sleazy John Spencer, Blues Explosion,
Great.
The Birthday Party, kind of Nick Cavey type of like dirt, maybe a bit, not like Butthole Surfers, but that kind of like dirty, like, ugh. This tune is called, I've completely forgotten.
Bugsy.
There she is.
Boom. Great.
Rewind my mind.
Okay, that tune is Bugsy. It's by a band called Avalanche Party. I've never heard of them before. But
no, nor have I. But John, I don't know about you, but they reminded me of a northern version of the Erotic Secrets of Pompeii.
Amazing band. Yeah, you can't go wrong if you're comparing anyone to those guys. You cannot go wrong. We will pick up on some news then, Kieran. Have you got any gossip you want to share?
No. So Frank Turner has re-announced his UK tour. So the one that was postponed and then cancelled just before Christmas. He has re-announced the dates. There's a few dates not on that tour. One of them is Bath, which was our show, and one of them was Newcastle. Basically, you can't just get the same venues in the same order consecutively 6 months later or whatever. It's very difficult to plan and route these things. They're not easy jobs. So he has announced those tours. Grab your tickets, go see him. If he's not playing near you, he will play near you again very soon. He is the sort of guy that constantly tours. This isn't the last chance you'll ever get to see him. But on that, if he's local-ish, pop to a local show and celebrate his first number one album with him.
Yeah, because you were talking about this album before it went to number one, and you did say that in 2 weeks' time his album would be number one, and it was. Now on this show you've said the same about Wet Leg. So we will actually. You said should be. You didn't. This wasn't a definite for Wet Leg, but let's see.
Okay. I'm going to change it. It will definitely be number one. There's nothing else in the chart this week to compete with it, and it's just a ridiculously hot record. Wet Leg will be number one.
Let's look at a few gigs that are coming up. Over the coming week. The Shudders. You probably know the Shudders really well. They're playing at the Rolleston on the 29th of April. Some nice folky rock there.
So the Shudders are my wife's best friend's wife. So it's, literally best friends with Dan from the Shudders.
All connected. Everyone's connected. Spiritualized. That could be a good one at the Bath Forum on the 28th.
Yes. Actually, big shout out to the Forum, right? Because they have got some cracking gigs. If you look up at their lineup on their website, they have got some great stuff. Kurt Vile and the Violators. And just loads and loads and loads. Elmelda May, just loads of stuff. Just really knocking it out of the park right now.
There you go. Not just check out Spiritualized, and just check out the Bath Forum, recommended by Kieran Moore himself. Okay, we will draw this show to a close, Kieran. Thank you for joining me. You can email sheerisolation@gmail.com or log on to sheerisolation.co.uk, or you can find us online just by Googling and searching in that way that you do. Until next week then, Kieran. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us.
Always a pleasure. Never a chore.
I'm glad we're just getting to this point now because Kieran has started to yawn. That's normally a sign.
I am yawning. I'm so tired. It's because of my leg, John. I'm really knackered.
Yeah, you take care, bud. You look after yourself. Don't do too much heavy lifting.
I'll try not to. I had to go up in the ladder, John, to get my microphone because I'm usually in the attic. I can't get up in the attic properly. But I had to go up there and get my microphone. But I had to take my pot off because I couldn't get my pot. Oh, it was a nightmare. And I was nearly this close to being late for the interview and for the podcast. I ended up being 3 minutes early, so I was quite happy.
Oh, well done. Do you know, Kieran is one of the few sound engineers I know who will actually pick up a microphone while it's live and then just swing it around the room while he's talking at it. It's so professional. Right, I'm going to leave that there.
Cheers, mate.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.